You've probably heard about the modes of the major scale, but have you heard about the modes of the melodic minor scale? It is such a common sound in jazz, so even though you might not know what it is, you have definitely heard it. It is also the key to unlocking some really cool sounding chord scales in jazz, so if you're looking to expand your vocabulary, then definitely keep watching. In classical music theory, the melodic minor scale is one scale going up and then a different scale going down. It is melodic minor going up, but natural minor going down. In jazz, however, we think of the melodic minor scale as the same scale going up and down, and this is to make it easier to apply it to chords. Now, before we dig into all the modes of the melodic minor scale, we first have to take a quick look at harmonic analysis. Because harmonic analysis is how we understand where to use these scales. Let's take a D minor 7 chord. If we're in the key of D minor, then the D minor 7 chord is simply the 1 chord. But if we're in the key of C major, then the D minor 7 is a 2 chord. If we're in the key of B flat major, then the D minor 7 is a 3 chord. Or let's say we're in the key of F, then the D minor 7 is the 6 chord. All these minor chords take different chord scales, and that's why harmonic analysis is so important. Let's take another example, like the last part of All the Things You Are, where you have a D flat major going to D flat minor, and then going to a C minor chord. Now on that C minor 7 chord, you might want to play like a nice fat minor 9 sound there. But you would actually be wrong. Now, that's not entirely true. There are no wrong notes in jazz, and you can totally make that work. But from a theoretical point of view, the natural 9th does not belong on that C minor 7 chord. That is because we're in the key of A flat. So the C minor 7 chord is not a 2 chord, it's a 3 chord, and it takes the Phrygian mode. So C Phrygian has a D flat and not a D. So that should illustrate why harmonic analysis is important. So now let's move on to learning the modes of the melodic minor scale and where to apply them, with this in mind that different chords take different chord scales depending on how they function in a song. Now the melodic minor scale itself is great to use on a minor major 7 chord. If you're playing over a minor chord that functions as a 1 chord, you can use the melodic minor scale to emphasize that it's the 1 chord. That is because it has a natural 7th, and that natural 7th is also called the leading tone. It leads us back to 1. But now let's take a C melodic minor scale. But instead of playing it from C, we're going to start on a D, the 2nd degree of the melodic minor scale. This is called a D Dorian flat 2 scale. Now this is almost the same as a Dorian scale, except it has a flat 2. So a D Dorian scale would have an E. The D Dorian flat 2 has an E flat. This is not one of the easier ones to apply, but it's used in a lot of modal settings or if you see a sus chord with a flat 9. So for now, let's leave this one and move on to the next mode of the melodic minor scale. And that is the 3rd mode, which is a Lydian altered scale. If you see a major 7 sharp 5 chord, then this is a scale you can reach for. Okay, so now we're getting to the really good stuff, and that is the 4th mode of the melodic minor scale. That's also known as the Lydian dominant scale. So if you take a C melodic minor scale, but you start it from F, you get a Mixolydian scale that also has a sharp 11. In terms of harmonic analysis, we have something called secondary dominance, which basically means you're adding another dominant in front of an existing dominant. So in C major 7, the primary dominant is the G7. G7 leads us to C major 7. But let's add a secondary dominant to that G7. So the dominant of G is a D. So we're going to add a D7. Now on that secondary dominant, the Lydian dominant scale is perfect. Or you might be familiar with the concept of tritone substitution. On a tritone substituted dominant that has a natural 9th and a natural 13th, you could play the Lydian dominant scale. So if you're in the key of C major and you see a D flat 7 chord, you can play the Lydian dominant scale. Another great use of this scale is if you see a backdoor dominant chord. Now in the key of C major, the backdoor dominant is a B flat 7. A B flat 7 leading to C major 7. On that B flat 7, you can use the Lydian dominant scale. There are so many places you can use this scale that it's hard to go over all of them, but these are some of the most common ones. Now moving on to the fifth mode, and that is something known as the Hindu scale, or the Mixolydian flat 13. Now before we looked at a secondary dominant going to the primary dominant of C major 7, a D7 leading to a G7. But now let's add a different secondary dominant. Let's add a secondary dominant leading to the 2 chord of C major 7. So the 2 chord is a D minor 7. The dominant of D minor 7 is an A7 with the flat 13. Now this is the place where we can use a Mixolydian flat 13 scale. And that flat 13 is just a perfect little indication that this chord is going to a minor chord. Because that flat 13 in A7 is an F, and the minor third in D minor 7 is also an F. So we're already signaling that we're going to a D minor chord when we're playing the flat 13 on that A7 chord. But any dominant that has a natural 9 and a flat 13, you can totally use this scale no matter its function. And now we're getting to one of my personal favorites, and that is the Locrian natural 2. It's almost the same as a Locrian scale, but it has a natural 2 instead of a flat 2. So let's do a little bit more harmonic analysis. So a 2-5-1 going to major is a minor 7 chord, going to a dominant 7 chord, going to a major 7 chord. Now we can also have a 2-5-1 going to a minor chord. And in that case, we want to make the 2 chord a minor 7 flat 5 chord. And we want to make the 5 chord a dominant 7 flat 9 chord. Now on that minor 7 flat 5 chord, you can go for Locrian, or you can go for Locrian natural 2. And the Locrian with the natural 2 is just such a great sound over minor 7 flat 5 chord, because it has that natural second, which is such a good tension, the natural 9 on a minor 7 flat 5 chord. So let me just show you how this sounds. If we take the last A section of Stella by Starlight, and on all the minor 7 flat 5 chords, I'm going to play the Locrian natural 2 scale. Now we're coming to the final mode of the melodic minor scale, and this one is called the altered scale. This one is great to play over any altered dominant chord. A dominant chord that has a flat 9, a sharp 9, a sharp 11, and a flat 13. It's all those altered tensions baked into one super powerful scale. So let's say you see a G7 altered chord. Now you can play the G7 altered scale. Or if you prefer to think of it in a different way, you can just go up a half step and think of A flat melodic minor. So those are all the modes of the melodic minor scale. Now how to practice them and how to apply them and get them into your playing. First up, you have to have practiced the melodic minor scale itself, full range on your instrument and in all the 12 keys. As always, go slowly and with a metronome. Go so slow that you play it perfectly every time, because it's the perfect version of the scale that we want to move up in tempo. If you start practicing this too fast, you're going to take a sloppy version of the scale and learn to play that in a higher tempo, and that's not what we want. We want the perfect version of the scale. Now move on to practice your melodic minor scale in intervals. You can do thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, and sevenths. This is great. Now we have the melodic minor in our fingers, but we want to learn all the modes too, and we want to learn how to pull up the different modes quickly and with confidence. So here's a little exercise for you. Try playing all the different modes of the melodic minor scale, but every time you start on the same note. So now we've practiced the melodic minor scale and the full range of our horn and in different intervals and arpeggiations. And we've practiced all the different modes starting from the same note. If you do this in all 12 keys, you should be really confident with the melodic minor modes. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure you like it, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you want more content from me, I also have a Patreon page where I post more videos, I do live streams, and I have a Discord community where you can chat with me with any questions you might have. I'm going to leave a link up here if you want to check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.